Welcome to Late Night Health with Mark Alyn and Darell Wayne. I am Darell Wayne, the host for the program this week. And we have a wonderful guest, a lot of interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to this with Dr. Charryse Johnson. Dr. Charryse, how are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved in the mental health area?
Absolutely. So I am a licensed clinical therapist and consultant living out in the East Coast in Charlotte, North Carolina. I have been in the field of working with people, I'd say, for the last 20 years and progressed from coaching into counseling and consulting so that I could support not only individuals and families, but now I do a lot of work with supporting organizations around how to help people navigate the balance between life and home. I have two amazing children, one that lives out in California and one that lives in South Carolina. And my husband and I have been married for almost 25 years.
And what was the original calling that brought you to this field?
The first original calling that brought me to this field was actually my own life, was navigating through different parts of my own story and situations that I've experienced and wanting to break cycles that I've seen in my own family and recognizing that in order to do that, I had to have a greater understanding of myself. And then as time went on, I realized that there was a need. And yes, there are multiple therapists that are already out there, but I specifically work on helping people look at mental health through what I call an integrative lens. So also including their body, different life domains. And as I recognized how that was missing, I continued to go to school, get licensed, and now practice and have an opportunity to use it in multiple different ways.
Well, I know that you're a speaker. I know that you're an author. I know that you've done a lot of things as part of the development of probably a 360-degree solution for folks. And why don't you tell us a little about the kind of places that you get invited to speak, and we'll talk about the book next.
I have had some incredible experiences speaking, a lot of international opportunities out in China, out in France, out in different parts of Africa. When it comes to within the U.S., it ranges from clinical conferences where I'm sharing and mentoring and educating other therapists. Last year I was at Reagan Communications talking about how to connect the world of communications to mental health, or in panelist event. But I also go in and embed myself into different organizations, get to know them, and help them really look at, here's what we have as wellness on paper, but here's what this really looks like for the people that we serve, and where's our definition outdated? So it gives me a lot of opportunities in a variety of different settings. I'm also a mindfulness practitioner, so I do meditation and yoga, and have been invited into different companies to facilitate and help them participate in different ways to support each other as well.
Have you had an example of a company that you went into that was really, from an organizational standpoint, broken and needed to be put back together and fixed to function properly going forward?
Yeah, I saw a lot of that happen during the pandemic, where companies and organizations, because of the way things were occurring and losing different individuals, whether that was from physical loss or emotional loss, realized we have to do something different in order to keep things going. One particular organization that I had gone into was a nonprofit organization that traditionally had done very well, but found that it was hitting a wall and not able to connect with its current employees, and was really losing what it called its core, and that was impacting their ability to go out and support one another. So during the pandemic, when things were slow, they brought me in and asked for me to connect with the managers, the leadership, and then the people who are kind of on the front lines day to day. And I was able to work with them, pull them together to also have some really what I call courageous conversations around their conflicts, around where things have missed the mark, and then help them create a new system and a new structure so that they could go forward, but also constantly be checking in to make sure that they're on the right track, meeting the needs of all of their employees.
Yeah, my master's degree is in organizational behavior. So, I mean, that's sort of it sits at home with me as far as, making sure that a company made up of a whole bunch of different personalities can get on the same page going forward. And you wrote a book, Inspired Mindsets, Releasing Patterns That No Longer Serve You Well. Mm-hmm. When does a company in this process sort of throw out what they have and do they start over? Do they adapt?
So when we think about the concept of, even behavioral management within an organization, the hope is that a company would look at their system and their structure and constantly see it as a living document. To some degree, you have the foundation of that organization, but you also want things in place that are always helping you go, do we align with our initial mission and vision? Do the people that we're bringing on really buy in to the mission that we have? And where is our inability to adapt impacting the way we work, the way that we expand, and the way that we're connecting with the people that we want to utilize who we are? So the belief is expiring a mindset is a constant process, even within an organization, to go, this may have worked for us 3 years ago. This may have worked 5 years ago, but where are we noticing that it's no longer working? And now we need to find a different way forward.
Years ago, organizations got involved in doing like Myers-Briggs and a variety of aptitude vector analysis and all this to take the senior staff that they had at the corporation and see how their personalities matched and worked together. And, you find out that you look at some people that are, more aggressive, less aggressive, more risk-taking and less risk-taking and things like that, and to make sure that they all match together. Is that still a valid way of developing communication between folks?
I think it's one component. I think that assessments can be helpful, but the challenge with a lot of those assessments is when we talk about assessments, they're normed, which means you get your baseline based on a group of individuals. So a lot of those assessments are outdated when it comes to the level of diversity that now exists in lots of different companies and organizations. So my encouragement is always, if an organization wants to use something like Myers-Briggs or the DISC assessment, to allow that to be one component, but also don't just do it for the senior staff. Try to implement that at every level, because what happens is the senior staff may have that information and you have a great senior team that conclusively or collectively is really helpful, but that doesn't always match the people that you bring in. And then you have that vertical and horizontal conflict that always isn't a good match.
We're going to go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back in our second segment with Dr. Charryse Johnson. You're listening to Late Night Health. We'll continue in a moment.
Late Night Health is proud of our partnership with the EBC, the Evolutionary Business Council. Check them out at ebcouncil.com.
You're listening to Late Night Health with Mark Alyn. The show continues in a moment.
Recently, I met Jacqueline from Bright here in Los Angeles. She gave me a hearing exam and then showed me how to hear again with the new Signia Pure Series hearing aids, and she can give you your life back too. I hear birds chirping, birds cooing, and even my wife. They easily connect to my smartphone. The Signia hearing aids are amazing, and with the charge and go, I don't have to fiddle with batteries and hear all day long. Not hearing is frustrating for you and your family. I know you don't have a problem, but trust me, call Bright Here now for a free hearing exam, a $125 value, yours free, just for making an appointment now. There are offices throughout the Los Angeles area. Call Bright Here now at 323-424-7100. That's 323-424-7100 for a free hearing exam. There's no obligation. Call now, 323-424-7100, or visit them on the web at brighthere.com. unresolved.com.
If you're listening to Late Night Health right now, you're part of the growing target of baby boomers we're serving. Hi, I'm Darell Wayne, producer of Late Night Health, inviting you to join the Late Night Health family. If you have any business targeting the growing boomer market, Late Night Health is the ideal advertising vehicle for you. From vitamins to insurance, alternative health to Western-style medicine, Late Night Health caters to the growing population of those over 40 years old. This vibrant demographic has expendable income to fight aging, purchase travel, take care of aging parents, or just have fun. Find out about the advertising opportunities with Late Night Health. Call us at 805-391-0308. That's 805-391-0308, or email us at info@latenighthealth.com. That's info@latenighthealth.com. Join Late Night Health as we empower people to take charge of their own health care. Call now at 805-391-0308. That's 805-391-0308.
It's time to tackle a tough topic, one that affects us all. We're talking about sexism in the workplace. The award-winning Identifying the Elephant in the Room series is back and ready to tackle some complicated communications issues again. This spring, we're focusing on critical communication strategies in the face of sexism. Join us as we hear from professionals in the natural products industry who have valuable career lessons to share and real-world experience to discuss from all sides of the elephant. It's time to have an honest and open conversation about the impact of sexism in the workplace and how we can make it better for everyone. Identifying the Elephant in the Room series starts March 16th. Register today at inicibox.vfairs.com. That's INICIBOX.VFAIRS.com and join the conversation to be part of the solution.
Sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Words are a critical aspect of success. How you get your point across is a crucial part of what makes anything sell. So do it right and hire a writer. Whether it's articles, blog posts, technical writings, website content, product descriptions, or ghostwriting anything from a novel to a nonfiction book about your navel, contact Servet Hassan. If you want it to sell, write it right. Email Servet at servet@servethassan.com. Late Night Health continues. My name is Darell Wayne, sitting in for Mark Alyn this week, who's on the East Coast, being a grandfather to his two granddaughters in the D.C. area. I'm sure he'll speak at length about it next week when he returns to the program. Do people refer to you as Dr. Charryse at this point? That's what it says on your website, so I didn't want to get too informal.
Yeah, either way, it's fine. I answer to almost everything.
We have Dr. Charryse on the program, and she is a mental health expert. She's written an amazing book called Expired Mindsets, Releasing Patterns That No Longer Serve You Well. And when you have mindsets, the word set means something. It's firm, it's solid, it's been going on a long time. Do you find people that are just not willing or uncooperative to make changes when you suggest that what they're doing right now might not be working as well as it did originally?
Most people aren't uncooperative. Most people are overwhelmed around, well, where do I start? And is this really going to work for me? When a mindset is, you pulled out that word set, and it feels like this is who I am and this is the way that I've always been. It takes time for me to educate people and help them understand that even if you've been in one pattern for a long time, you have the ability to change. Our brain gives us that capacity through something called neuroplasticity, which means we can shift. Where people don't initially recognize their power is shifting a pattern is a matter of shifting a habit. It's not about just thinking differently. It means, how do I put new habits in place that then shift the way I normally respond? And once they get that, they feel much more hopeful and open. They're just overwhelmed.
There's a lot of organizations that will work on mythology, work on tribal knowledge, work on, that's the way it has always been done. So we're not going to, that's the way Grandma used to do it, as a delivered at several places and organizations. And to shy away from that and to lay new track or new ground going forward must be, first of all, for an organization to do that and accomplish something that feels good for them, you must get some level of satisfaction out of that as well.
Yeah, I love helping an organization see that change doesn't mean that they have to completely disconnect from this is the way we've always done. I try to give them the analogy of legacy or even like a tapestry where we have an intersection of different colors and textures, but we can still see some of that original core. And that's where that concept of, being overwhelmed and knowing where to start, because most people don't want to change and then look back, or an organization doesn't want to change and feel like they've lost their identity. So when we go in and we start the process, we go, what's your core values? And how can we bring your core values kind of up to speed? And it doesn't mean that we're getting rid of them. It just means that they might be executed in a different way. So I always try to help an organization feel like you're still going to get to maintain your identity. And I do love it because I love seeing people have that aha moment, or seeing an organization that was starting to fall apart to a place where they're revitalized.
So do you, at this point, is it part of your practice, do you meet with individuals still, or is it mostly lectures and authorship?
It is half and half. So I still do one-on-one work. One of my specific specialties is trauma. So a lot of my one-on-one work with individuals is around either intergenerational trauma, personal traumas, various things like that. And then the other half is the writing, speaking, and then partnering with different organizations around supporting their employees.
It's marvelous, and it's good that there's somebody like you out there that can put their arms around this stuff and help boil it down, make sense out of it, and move forward. As far as working with companies, are there certain exercises that you go through that help people understand the process?
So a lot of times when I'm working with a company, I'm usually called in because of one specific crisis. So the different techniques that I'm going to implement are usually going to match what's happening. One of the kind of what I call technique that works really well across the board is called a listening circle, which is an opportunity for me to come in and really kind of hold a container around a theme. For example, I recently worked with an organization where one of their employees had lost their life through suicide. And they were at a loss with, how do we support our employees? We don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. So I was able to go in, and for those who wanted to come, we met virtually and really kind of talked to them about grief and loss, looking at the different stages, and then just giving everyone an opportunity to reflect by some different questions that I facilitated. And that gave the managers at that organization some just huge information about how their people were processing what just happened. And then I'm able to sit with the managers and go, okay, now that we have had this experience, here's what you can do to support your employees as you move forward based on what they've shared.
Unfortunately, in this country, we've had an upswing in the recent years of gun violence in the workplace, in schools, in social situations. The disco in Florida and France came to mind. That's got to weigh heavy on people's minds if they were there and experienced that kind of thing.
It does weigh heavy on a lot of people's minds. And I think one of the tragedies to these situations is it takes away your ability to be carefree or feel a level of safety, because we are watching these incidents happen so frequently and they have become seemingly common. I think it can create a lot of fear. So what I always encourage people to really consider is knowing how much information is too much. It's not a matter of not paying attention or avoiding that information, but sometimes we can be so overwhelmed by what's happening that we need to make sure we have good space between how we take it all in. And if we notice that we don't want to leave the house as much as we used to, or we're more pessimistic or irritable than we used to, that might mean or indicate that we need to work through some things because we're feeling overwhelmed by all of the uncertainty.
When you feel overwhelmed in the workplace and in a social atmosphere and sort of, close yourself in, there's a lot to be afraid of out there. If your norm is to be overly sensitive to things in the real world, I mean, there's got to be a lot of people that are just hiding in their house at this point.
Absolutely. And I think we also are still getting back to pace since the pandemic. There was this aspect during the pandemic of here is this invisible threat that's constantly around an individual. And then people who were highly sensitive, anxious, or get stimulated really easy got very comfortable being inside. So it's going to take a lot of courage to get out and get going. And I do believe from young all the way up, we are more cautious, more apprehensive, less trusting than we've ever been because of everything that's happening.
I can agree with that. I was at a family event over the weekend, and we were referring to things. Oh, this was, a couple of months ago, and actually, all the things we were talking about had been like 3 or 4 years ago, right? And this pandemic just put like a vacuum or a hold on things.
Yeah.
You don't realize that was a long time ago. The pandemic really started 2.5 years ago-ish, right? And so, no, well, that wasn't, from a time scale, that wasn't when we got together. It was like, in 2018 or 2019, because it just seems like mentally everything get put on hold as well as physically.
Agreed. Yeah. I feel like time almost stopped. And I feel like a lot of people feel like time stopped and everyone's still trying to figure out, how do I do this again? I think a lot of people too, I don't know if you've experienced this, you look at the pace that you kept before the pandemic, and then you look at your capacity now and you go, I still don't feel like I could do what I was doing before. And I'm not even sure how did I do all of those things every day. So that may even be a partial benefit is I believe it taught us that we all needed to slow down a little bit.
No question about it. Dr. Charryse, we have run out of time. How do people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me by my website, which is drcharryse.com. Charryse is spelled Charryse.
Dr. Charryse Johnson, our guest for Late Night Health. Late Night Health continues in a moment.